Good day and welcome to today's broadcast of OSM Masterclass in collaboration with Classic SA, South Africa's premier classic music directory. We have today a different kind of a masterclass. I would rather say master conversation with Samson Diamond, violinist, violin lecturer at the OSM, concert master of the FSSO and artistic leader of the Odeon String Quartet. Our guest today in the studio is Mr. Karol Legierski. Karol is a Polish violinist. He was previously the first concertmaster of the Philharmonia Gorszowska as well as the Leipzig Philharmonie. Legierski played in several European orchestras, Concerthaus Orchester Berlin, Berliner Symphoniker, as well as the Radio Symphony Orchestra of Berlin, to name a few. He played under conductors in the likes of Bernhard Haitink, Kent Nagano, and Zagorek. Gentlemen, welcome at OSM Masterclass. The floor is yours.
Fantastic. Well, I suppose because you're in South Africa, so I should say welcome to you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll do a proper South African handshake for you. Like, one side, there, and that, and then there you go. Almost as difficult as going technique.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel very happy to be here in South Africa, and definitely this is a country with a big artistical potential, and I'm just enjoying every time being here.
Fantastic. We had a sort of a slightly more candid conversation, just talking about violin things, and it's just general problems people face, and also certain things that you sort of tips that you might help with some of the young aspiring violinists on methods of practice and different approaches as well. But first things first, I wanted to find out what your thoughts are on general violin approach. In terms of we have people use Galamian, use Suzuki. Do you have any preferences?
There is definitely Leopold Mozart School for the Violin.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Even Galamian as well as Karl Flesch are very close together. The most important thing, it's from this violin school, which I prefer. This is old Russian school, actually, and a little bit of typical French Western and French bowing techniques.
Yeah.
But this is the individual stuff, of course, vary to each violin player.
Yeah.
It's according to the physical possibilities. It's according also to to some kind of our ego, how we want to express ourselves through playing on the violin, and we can just suit this what is for us the most comfortable. But there are some few basics which, according to each school, are mostly the same. The very basics for the very beginners, like we were everybody.
Yeah. So we agree then. In the first instance, then you have to hold the violin and hold the bow. So really, it's to do with posture.
Yeah.
And do you have any sort of ideas? What I found in most parts when people are playing the violin, especially by the time they come into university, some of them, some of the stuff, the basic stuff, as you talk about, the principles of just sort of basically holding the violin. It depends on the height. Some people hold it slightly more down, if you've got long arms, and some people hold it here, if you've got short arms to reach the point. And what are the ways of really dealing with those things at the beginning?
Well, this is a very good question. Actually, this is the problem which it's affecting a lot of young students and also people in our age. We are not that old.
Yes.
But in general, the first question is playing on the violin healthy thing. Unfortunately, not. Why? Because if you see let me demonstrate. Sorry, just make some improvement here. If you see the piano players, they sit like this. Well, this is also a very difficult instrument, but most of the hands are going with the gravity down. If they want to press in the keyboard, they are using the whole body. These muscles from very big back up to the shoulders, even the head. Some of them even like are singing like Glenn Good. But you see, this is more natural way of playing. We have to sit straight, of course. The cello players, they hold the instrument like this, and they are producing sound by putting the head, the hand on the string, and they produce the sound. This is also very important. They are using a little bit weight of the arm, whole arm, and a little bit of weight of the body. So this is much more natural movement. But we violin players, well, we are not lucky that well. We have to play like this. And what is the thing? What I would suggest? Many children, like you said, Samson, they sometimes they are coming for a lesson and they start to play like this. They're holding violin like this. No, but it's I was holding as well like this. You know, this is normal. Why? Because they want to see what's happened on the string and how the finger is moving, and the teacher is saying this pinky needs to be round. Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. At the beginning, it's really a great fun because they can play violin, they are making fast progress. But what's happened after 3 or 4 years? They want to progress with the repertoire. The repertoire is getting more advanced. And after that, they are getting cramps here, the right hand starts to shaking. Why? Because of the pressure of the neck muscles in this side, the right arm is going up and the muscles are intense and the right head is not just very well coordinated. So if the right shoulder is like in this position, then at one time the left shoulder becomes also in this position. And then the parents said, no, it's fault of the teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the best.
Yes, it's true.
What I will prefer, I was discovering on myself because once I got really frustrated a lot because I had some problems with performing on the stage because my muscles got very tense. And I had the problems with the right hand, which was shaking. I had the problem with the left hand, which was vibrating like, or very slow, or like, Suzuki motor, that was very fast. I couldn't actually, how I want to say, I couldn't control it. Yeah. One day I discovered, I started to think about how our body is built. That okay, Alexander technique helped a little bit. Good, yeah. The Alexander technique says we should open ourselves, that we are getting some comfort of the muscles and then we are getting a lot of air into our lungs. Because if we have stress on the stage, then we need a lot of air to release this stress and to let our body work normal. So what did I suggest? I started, and also I'm telling this to my students, I started with the simple thing. How do I feel comfortable while I stand without the violin? Do I feel comfortable like this? No, definitely not. Do I feel comfortable like this? No. Do I feel comfortable like this? No. Then I realized if we put our tummy a little bit in the front, well, mine is quite big, sorry for that, but it's just to explain it in some the most easy way. If you put tummy a little bit to the front, then you can feel your shoulders, here, these muscles. It's a little bit released, the gravity is pulling you down, yeah? Okay, and then you can also check it, your neck is going left and right, and you feel very good. After, if you, at this point, if in the first point you feel comfortable, then it's logical. If you put violin like this, you start doing again. You are starting to pressing with your head and neck. Mm-hmm. And actually, the logic thing is we should hold violin with our left hand, not with our head. The head should rest on the violin. So what? I discovered that I should actually put violin on my shoulder like this and just put little bit head on it. and it's resting and supported with the left hand. What is the relation? The relation is that our shoulders and our body, if you can look of this Leonardo da Vinci sign, it's like a weight. It's very bad if the right side it goes too much this way, because then we will play comes nothing. It's very bad if we play like this, because then it's also we feel uncomfortable. But if we really stand in this position, we put the violin. I can feel comfortable. And I applied it to a few of my students, with who I'm working now, and it really, after 2 months, brought some effect that they really feel much more release while they play. Because with what we violin player, we struggle a lot.
Yeah.
We want to play the caprices of Paganini, we want to play Bach, all the most beautiful repertoire which has been written for the violin, and not only these pieces, of course. And then we cannot, because we struggle with, okay, I have pain here, my hand is shaking, and it costs us a lot of mental pressure, which is the most important thing while we play violin, to be mental very healthy, to be released. If we cannot somehow manage our body, to control our body, then our psychic is telling me, man, you are bad, you are bad. No, that's not true. We should start thinking about playing violin. The new school, I will call it the new school of playing violin, is just to think about the muscle relations, about how to release the muscles, about how the muscles are connected to make our body fit.
Yeah.
And then the violin playing will be much easier.
Well, would you say, I mean, because you talked a little bit about your own sort of personal experience, and you know, getting over that and sort of overcoming it with your own methods, your own ideas, which I think that's what makes it, you know, so unique for everybody, because and that's why you have all these different methods, because it has to, you know, it's almost like it has to work for you with a little bit of input from, you know, all the different methods, but you have to have something that you tailor-made for you know, every individual, which I always find that is the most challenging thing, because every student in some ways is an individual, and then, you know, they come in, some of them are either, you know, quite big or short arms, you know, me too short arms, and you have to deal with all these challenges while you're sort of eliminating all sorts of tension with it. And you know, I once had Ifrit Gitles, when someone, oh, this girl plays beautifully, you know, where she doesn't even lift a finger. He's like, but then how does she play? You know, because the whole idea of not creating tension, you know, some people like to see people to see tension, but some people can just walk in and make it look like it's easy. So there's sort of all different ways of just approaching it. And my first approach when I started was that the violin is difficult. So I had to make it look difficult as well. You know, so we started playing. Remember when we were doing Praduman and Allegro, you know, and already before I started, I had this face. And you just imagine what's gonna come out, you know. But just because I wanted to, you know, the tension of the piece, and I wanted to show I can play, but I wanted to show how difficult this piece is. Then, of course, I started, you know, watching other violinists just play with an absolute maximum sound, fantastic, and posture, all very good, and no theatrics, and just, you know, the stillness and concentration. So I thought, oh, I need to change something here. You know, I look like I'm working too hard. And on top of that, what I also realized that then I lost quite a lot of sound. I also didn't really produce the best sound, simply because there's so much tension going on. But, you know, I'm not sure if I've overcome it, but I'm really aware of it, which is the most important thing. The second thing that I also find when you're dealing with the bow, which I always find that's something perhaps, you know, I know other people say, you know, the left hand, you know, you deal with intonation, vibrato, and all this stuff when it's shifting, then that's it done. Then the rest of your life you'll be dealing with this hand, you know, because there's so much to really accomplish. And my biggest problem was when I started, I did quite a lot of Baroque playing, you know. And it felt very nice and light, and you know, we taught quite a lot with the ensemble I played with. But then when I got to university, they said, you know, everything you're doing is all very nice, but it's fluffy. So what do you mean fluffy? So, and I just felt, oh, what are they talking about? You know, I can do all these light things, and it just feels fine, you know. And then, of course, then I had to start learning, you know, getting into the violin and playing. So my biggest problem actually ended up about actually understanding the distribution of the arm weights of the, you know, for yam. And I talked about it in a sort of a very, the way I had to understand all this stuff was to actually take it out of context. Which is something that for me, when people do that, and I don't think about the violin as an object. I just think about it as, you know, as a tool that you use to play, but it's not sort of this now concept of this hard instrument. Because so what helps me was actually talking about gravity, as you said.
Yeah.
That, you know, pianists, it's much easier because you're playing from above, and many other instruments. But with violinists, you know, it's really unnatural to have something slightly above your shoulder length. So I started thinking that actually the second thing that makes it difficult is that you want to exert enough pressure to make some sound up here as you would the same down here. So, and how do you do that? So I thought, okay, so if you just have a piece of rod, anything, it could be a stick, and you just want to apply pressure there, you would certainly have to raise this arm. Otherwise, if you don't, if you play like this, as most people do with the collapsed elbow, and then the sound sort of, you know, goes that way, so you don't actually exert enough pressure. So I thought about it, well, actually then it makes sense. All I have to do is just raise my arm on this side, and it solves quite a lot of the problems.
This is thank you, Samson. This is very interesting what you are what you told. I had such a violin journey that I was practicing actually 12 months just Kreutzer, 3 or 4 etudes, just this, because of right arm. Because, like I said, I was like clinched. I could produce the sound. I was cracking incredibly. If I wanted to produce a big one, and I couldn't control my bow when I wanted to play something soft. And I met one guy he was my professor, Uwe Martin Heiberg. I had great honor to work with him at the Berlin University. And he just told me, I don't want to hear your Tchaikovsky, I don't want to hear your Bach, nothing. You will just play the Kreutzer the whole year. And then he started to talk to me like to a child. I was really a bit, at the beginning I felt really uncomfortable because my colleagues were playing good things and I was just sitting and struggling with Kreutzer. But after half a year, I wanted to kiss his feet for that. That was incredible. And now I want to demonstrate how. This is what Samson is saying. A lot of people are struggling with this thing. Of course, not Samson. Samson solved it in a great way. Yes, of course. But you see, many people think that we are playing on the violin using this kind of movement, yeah? Because, I just want to demonstrate. Because if we play, so we play left, right. Okay, it's fine. Actually, we are not playing left, right. We are playing front, back. If you look on how our arm is built, look, if I play like this, then my arm naturally, I'm just now showing the very natural movement of the arm. If I start to control it, then it will be straight, but it shouldn't be straight now. You see what is happening? But if I will think about to open up, to play to the front and to the back, this movement allows our right hand to press the bow to create the sound using just the weight of our arm. And many people are, for example, also. I will continue this topic after. I just want to say something very important for everybody. Take your right hand like this. Take the hand in the front of you. Really. Take like this, like deer. Put your right hand loose in this position, like on the bow with the fingers, and now try to press this direction. Like mostly we are pressing on the bow, yeah? Which muscles are working now?
Yeah, so rotate the arm there.
Yeah. I feel here. Where do you feel? The same, yeah. Okay, that's one thing. Now try to press the opposite way. It's also not good. So what we do? We are leaving the whole weight of arm, which is about from 2 until 4 kilo. It depends how much anybody likes cream soda and other delicious things in South Africa, of course. But we are actually pressing in the middle weight of our hand. Then our hands, you can feel the hand is hanging. And this thing is also very important while we hold the bow. Many people prefer to hold the bow like this, because this is the most easy way with the thumb. This is all connected. So I want to show you something. Take your left hand like this, and now make how we call it, the duck, quack, quack, quack. And now put it and press it. Comes nothing, frustrating. And now try to press once more and make your thumb round in this moment. Jaw, you see. And this we need for the right hand. This is the relation. Some people say, with what actually weekend violin players agree, that there are many different bowing techniques, of course, and some people are preferring, for example, playing lighter sound, creating the sound with the speed of the bow. Yeah. Some the Russians, the American school prefers to sit in the string. Both schools are every good, but the one thing, it's for them all, it's the same, the right position of the right hand of the bow. While when we press with this finger, we make this. It's not good for our bow coordination. When we put a little bit on that side, it's also not good. It should be in the middle and thumb needs to be round. Why? Because, for example, if it's coming to the jumping techniques like sautier, power with the pressing. I'm just using now my weight of my arm. It's much better. Coordination is much better sound and comfort feeling of not tense right hand. What will happen if I will try to play in this position? Nothing really. But in this position, everything is close and comfortable. What I wanted to say also about the right hand. Now I want to connect it. The sound starts here. This is the first thing. We are playing violin now with muscle, but with our head. That's clear. But the producing of the sounds starts here actually. Here are the muscles of the whole back, which are very important for our right hand. It goes from here through here, through here, through here, finishing on the finger. So, while we provide the bow, of course, it never comes automatically like Zachman really needs to sit and suffer 6, 8, 9 months a lot. Because one thing is, before we will do it automatically, we need to feel the difference, and the difference will come after 3, 4, or 5 months. This is very. And please look, if we move our arm, now this is natural movement of the right hand, like this. You can see here is some kind of chair. Yeah? It's allowing me, I'm not pressing now, to keep the strong sound up to the tip of the bow and then back. The relation between this finger and the pinky, these two fingers has really nothing to do while we play the détaché. They are moving because I'm not moving them on purpose. They are moving because the bow is moved by my arm and the fingers are laying very, very relaxed on the bow. So I'm not moving with the fingers. But we need the pinky one in the moment if we come to the frog. Because then we have the pinky is a counterweight. The same thing with this finger. You see here, I don't need these two fingers. I just need this one. Because the hand, natural movement go like this. So this is what actually...
Yeah, it's a very interesting approach. I actually, what you're taking is, you know what they should do.
Yeah.
So it's a part of a violin module. At the end of your studies, everybody should write their how they understand the way they play. Because actually, it's almost like you achieve the same thing, but in different ways. I find, and actually, I thought about it even from the same stuff with Alexander technique.
Yeah.
Because I started having back problems, so I'd lie down, get some books, and thought about sort of the string up in the air and lies straight back, and then I watched somebody else actually talking about playing that you should think of yourself as a golfer. To be really solid on the ground, so that everything, and so sort of solid on the ground, but the sound coming out that way. So same as you would have then for a singer, when you're really with good posture. And so while you think of it from this side, I was thinking about this side. I mean, maybe and that's why I was actually growing my tummy so that I can think about it a bit more. But anyway, so my approach was then sort of outward, and then the other thing. That sort of the balance of the feet and movement was actually with the right arm. Yeah. I also have found that because you demonstrated of the when people actually get into the sound. Yeah. I thought about it in a more sort of scientific way rather than sort of trying to keep sort of bowing this way. So what is usually when they do, as most people do, and then somebody just says, no, just do it that way. Yeah. But for me, it was just really to do with the sound production, and keep them parallel to the bridge. Now, of course, parallel to the bridge is scientific when you're looking at it from this side. I can't see it when I'm playing. I can't see if it's parallel because I'm looking at it this way. But thinking of keeping the whole arm parallel to the bridge all the way when I'm playing. Yeah? So then you can really tell that that's not quite parallel. So you have to move out your arm that way. And so that was the basic thing of actually, I think we're talking exactly the same thing. But the difference in the approach is that I probably use the word parallel and just talk about don't go backwards.
This is interesting. You are very right. The keeping the bow parallel to the bridge, it's like we cannot, this is very well what you say, we cannot just, we have to stick in one point with the bow to create the sound. Otherwise...
Well, I know somebody that plays like that and I quite like it.
But what I forgot to tell also about right hand, that this, it's if somebody, for example, is suffering with the right hand, I don't tell somebody from the students who will watch us, and for example, he doesn't really understand this kind of movement, because how to play to the front and to the back, I'm suggesting this is a very nice practicing opportunity, especially for girls, because they all have big mirrors in their rooms. But the boys can use mirror of mama, mirror or sister or anything. And just, well, here we don't have mirror, but doesn't matter. You can just control yourself. Control yourself. So here, the full power, full weight of the arm. It can even crack. At the beginning it should crack. But to get used to the feeling that everything is loose. You see, now I'm overriding it. So my bow is going like this. But then, if you will play, for example, détaché, see this kind of movement. You see this kind of movement.
Yeah.
So this is like lying to our brain and lying to us. But I think this kind. Well, there are many ideas and many topics about the right hand technique. I just tell personally on my example, it suffered. It rescued my life actually. It rescued my life because applying this technique to me, especially, well, I'm a little bit heavier built than, for example, my wife. Yes. Yeah. But for me, it works perfect. But some people should also consider to find the right thing for them.
Yeah.
But like I said, and I hope we agree, I'm sure we agree about it, that the some basics of the right hand should be the same, like on the basic education level.
And I think that is the most important thing, is that good violin playing is good violin playing, and it doesn't actually matter on what school it is. It's just good violin playing.
That's true.
But the principles is that it's quite obvious that you won't find, well, there is somebody that plays like I won't say names, but they play it really well, but and all this stuff. So it's all sort of theatrical. But of course, if you shut your eyes, God, it's beautiful sound. True. But of course, it goes against all sort of all the sides that the violin is too low, and the bow then gets to the fingerboard, and so you lose quite a bit of sound and all this stuff. But then again, of course, then when you teach the students, I saw somebody playing like this, and then you said no, but just the basic violin playing. Clearly, that's not the right way, especially if you explain. I mean, the other thing, when I thought about it, is actually my approach for holding the bow. Was mainly actually to get the bow to drop onto the index finger, the sort of pinky on the side of it. So actually, for me, sort of rather than curving it, it was more to actually let it drop, so that it's hanging on the side. So it's more of that way. So that then again, it helps you then for approaching above the violin rather than actually. Which again, I mean, it's the other things. I always found that I was for string crossing, it actually basically because you're sort of doing that rather than doing this one, sort of brushing. And I think perhaps with this is something I want to go back to the starting this bit. Now, how do you approach a little one? And of course, now we're talking about one good violin playing already. And I have a 2-year-old, and he won't listen to anything I have to say. But trying to get them to approach this way. And I did quite a lot of movements, did quite a lot of Sheila Nelson at the beginning, and everything was circles and everything. And I didn't understand why. So we started playing, and everything was all. I didn't know what's all these circles. But later on, I started understanding the approach of actually playing lighter and coming from above. So I think maybe there's a gap somewhere of really trying to get the sort of the basic messages, but to little ones.
This is very good. I was before 2 weeks. I have such a student, and he he really doesn't want to learn because he is too lazy. He's just coming for violin lessons because mama says he should. But well, I think he's talented but lazy. But most of the talented persons are lazy, so this is normal. And we were also working on the sound production, you know. And he came to me and he played just very strongly and very rough. And then I tried to, well, for the children, like you said, you need to apply some kind of other language that they understand. So I told him, I asked him, do you have a cat at home? Okay, yes, I have 2 cats. So look, if you will come to your cat, it's kitty cat in the evening before you go sleep, and normally if you want to take him, you say, my little kitty cat, my little kitty cat, my little kitty cat, yeah? But if you will do this, then the cat will say, meow, 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 and away, and then he will be angry. And then he started to laugh and he said, yeah, but really, the kitty cat, yo, kitty cat, no, normal. And then he started, kitty cat, kitty cat, and it helped. But I have one such a student. It's a girl. She's a little bit older than this guy. She's 17, and she came to me. And she started to play Hungarian. She's grade, I don't know, grade 5. And she started probably. And she started to play me Hungarian as number 5. And she's playing. Like this, yeah? And then I told her, you know, you think to creating the sound in a nice way, you need to use also this kind of movement, but think also about phrasing with the bow, you know? And then she said, yeah, okay, I will try to phrase. Well, I was quite frustrated, but what I told her, I was thinking very intensively, what should I tell her? And I told her, you see, you are at that age that you probably are going for dates. Okay, it's your personal thing, but imagine, if you are playing violin in this way, ta-ra-ra-ra, if you see a nice boyfriend and you want to hug him or kiss him, so if you will ta-ra-ra-ra, then it will be like you are sitting with him in cinema and then so what he will do? He will just run away. But then you have to smile to him nicely, hug him and kiss. And you should do it in a gentle way. So, in a gentle way. Of course, this is not the gypsy barbaric style of this dance, but at least it helped a little bit. Yeah. So
I suppose I was to say you have to apply sort of different context to get to the right message, because sometimes actually just saying, just phrase it is not enough, but you have to almost manipulate the imagination to achieve what they want, or at least what you desire. I wanted to find out another thing with moving on to the left hand. We're dealing again with certain things to do with intonation, vibrato, and shifting. Because and also, I mean, actually, the first thing, I mean, we all learn, to play. And then suddenly somebody says, "Sorry, but there's a 4th finger." And then now I have to stretch his finger. And then somebody said, to me, how about thinking about the 4th finger first, that you go backwards, so that you don't do it, and then you stretch it this one, but you actually think. So if you're thinking backwards, that the 4th finger is a little bit more comfortable, and you're not stretching for it, but actually thinking backwards. I don't know, what's your approach on that?
Well, interesting question. The left hand, I was taught at the beginning when I was, I don't really remember how, but I can just remember how I was playing. I remember this kind of position of the left hand. It was impossible to play anything, because if we hold left hand like this, the left hand should be straight. It's wrong. Look, if you hold your left hand, just put it like this. The most relaxed part of is this, how we call it, Gelenk. Germans call it Handgelenk, but this joint, yeah? And mostly if we are, I think, if we hold the violin and we are supporting it a little bit with left hand, because we have to, otherwise we hold it with the head and it's bad. When we hold the violin, we are making this kind of movement a little bit, which is not unnatural. It's actually much more comfortable because here we have much more space to support the violin. And in this position, naturally, our left hand is going a little bit like this to make our fingers flat. And the flat fingers are making such a big difference to compare to straight fingers on the string, because first of all we have much more space for a sound. Much more variety of vibrato, anything, and much more comfort. Because we can feel it from one side, the hand is supporting the violin, but from other side it's hanging, and it's much more plastic. So that's why I think, even if we are changing position, if we have straight left hand, well, I'm playing, I don't want to say it's Russian school. It's just, I prefer to play with thumb like this because I feel good my violin. If I clutch them once, then nothing can take them out from me. But okay, let's do it more in the academic way. So for example, if I will, well, let's say, hold the thumb like this, and it should be actually between first and second finger. I think the Galamian school even says about it. Then, okay, this is very right. Also, Yehudi Menuhin school is saying about it. Yeah, we hold it like this. But you see, this is something very nice, because you can see even in this technique, your fingers are flat here, and from other side the thumb is supporting them from the back, because the thumb is the strongest finger in our hand, and this muscle is the strongest muscle. So if we hold it like this, well, for me it fits, but in general the left hand should be never in this position very straight. The fingers should be flat with tendency to this kind of the feeling of holding the instrument, not fitting the neck of the violin, but to hold it, to.
So what you're saying then, if you think, so it's the more fat part of the finger, so rather than the tips of the fingers.
Sorry, I forgot one thing to tell. Also, I had, maybe this is just my personal feeling, but when I started to play like this with the flat finger and more like into the violin, you know, more. Then I realized the sound is much warmer, much warmer, and the acoustics are always in that way in the big hall. If we produce warm, nice sound, it goes even much further than the straight, but very tense sound.
Okay.
Gentlemen, we have only 10 minutes left at this stage. I wonder if you don't mind if we open the floor to participants. I'm sure many of you students and also our pedagogue, Francois Hinkens, have a few questions. Francois, shall I open the floor to you for any specific questions?
Yes, I was very interested about the discussion on the bowing technique in the right hand. And this whole feeling of using your natural weight of the arm rather than pressing down with muscle power. I think that's the wonderful thing about the violin. I agree with you 100%. Violin is so uncomfortable. I mean, you know, we have to twist our arm like this, and we have anything. But we have the advantage that our instrument is really part of our body. You know, it's like it's growing out here. You know, we are so fortunate that our instrument is really an extension of our body. So it's overcoming that uncomfortable initial feeling of that, and then it becomes part of your body.
Yeah.
But this the whole thing about using your weight of your arm. Now the relation between the elbow and the wrist. I mean, there are so many different ways of playing. Some Ifits and these guys all played with a very high arm position. But then you've got some wonderful players. I remember we played concerts years ago. We were fortunate to play with Wolfgang Schneiderhan. I don't know if you ever saw him playing performing. Schneiderhan was much more of the old German school and had quite a low arm. But he was quite a big man. It's also very similar built to you. And he used the weight. He really used the weight of his arm. And he was so incredibly relaxed. It was a joy to watch him play. He never used any force, any power, and he had a huge sound. But it's this whole thing of not having to press, but using the natural.
But I suppose, as you say, but then it's the distribution of it, right? Because if your arm is really heavy, I suppose you can always, but for some of us who are, I guess, then a little bit lighter, have to find ways to also then distribute the arm weight.
That's it.
Talking also, the second thing that interested me is actually, I did quite a lot of playing and without the shoulder rest, and there's also something that when I actually approach scales, to play without a shoulder, so that you, as you say, to make it an extension of your body. But actually, what it does, it also helps you to get into the string a bit more, because then the violin is actually just slightly lower. So for some of us, then with the shorter arms, it's easier to get in, above the instrument, because when you have a shoulder rest, it just lifts it ever so slightly, and then you have to do this a bit more. So that's also maybe another thing to perhaps practice some of the scales without a shoulder rest. To also have, also the other thing is to remember that some of the older violinists actually played without shoulder rest, although they did wear jackets all the time.
And they were cheating.
It also had a little bit of something there, so I wouldn't say go completely without it, but it certainly helps you to find that connection, and also to of course it will help you with the shifting. To shift without a shoulder rest is quite a mission. So it actually will help you to connect a bit more. Yeah. So I think it's definitely a good one.
Well, you started very nice conversation, and to my mind come the one thing about the sound production, and what is also coming from the other point, the economy of the playing. Let's say the sound production we have as much as people on the violin players on the earth, but let's try to make it more, I will try to explain more in an academic way. Of all the fans of violin playing and classical music, there is a huge range of really great artists from the, let's say, from the first 10th of 20 in the world. Some of them passed away, like my beloved David Oistrakh, for example. Some of them are still living. And I was once trying on my example few kinds of producing the sound, which also sometimes should suit to the natural body possibilities. Yeah. So, for example, I was trying to, let's say, I'll play some Mozart G major, for example. I was trying to solve the problem with sound projection. Yeah. I took one friend of me, he was making the recording, and I was standing on the stage and just making few recordings and playing in a different way. And I realized that now I was much more in the string. Now I will try to play the same with much more bow speed. Now I felt personally that the sound as the second time was producing much better. And now we are coming to the point, very important point, economy of playing, understandable the bow division. This is very important thing while we play violin, the bow division. This is like, I love this topic because this is almost like the engineering of the bow. Sorry to say, sorry to use the science, but if we talk in some academic way, then I will use it. The bow division, for example, many people, I was suffering also with that. Many people are, for example, what I can play. Okay, G minor Fugue from Bach. Many people are trying to create the sound and phrasing, not thinking how to do it in the way where we are using the less power by moving from here to there, from here to there. And then I discovered one thing. If we know how it should sound, we are producing the sound here in our head. And if, as soon as we know how it should sound for us, the fugue, for example, dum 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 dum, and exposition of every theme. Well, once I was playing this. I think terrible, because I'm moving the whole bow, I'm moving too much energy, and I'm completely not making music. So what is the problem? We are creating sound with the bow. That's very obvious thing. So maybe I should just. Where is the strongest part of the fugue, of the topic? Pam 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 pam. Okay. So how should I do it using the less energy? And get the effect and really don't just feel comfortable in the way I will do it, yeah? So, well, I was trying with a better and less better effect, but I discovered something like this. And... using almost 70% less of energy, using just some kind of bow division according to the natural preferences of the bow. Here is softer, here is more tricky, jumpy, but here is stronger. And then I realized, my God, this is so easy. And I realized it on my studies time. And then when I started my first job in the orchestra, I realized how much this is important actually for us, for the violin players, because in the orchestra we have to deal with sitting on the rehearsals up to 7-8 hours. After 2 hours we won't actually throw out the conductor. But okay, this is a joke. But after the thing, we need to still be fit to play, to continue. So this is what I call the effective playing on the violin, without really using as much power as possible.
Economy of effort. Economy of effort.
We have one question, sorry to disturb the gentleman, another question from Ilane, a violist, may I add? Can I have a question?
I have this problem to connect my right hand with the left hand, especially in faster passages.
With faster passages.
Especially, because
Look,
it's slower, you're thinking.
There is such a natural relation, because according to the left and right hand, if you, for example, the viola needs much more meat.
Yes.
Let's say. The sound production on the violin is coming, and it is on the viola you must. It needs to go because you have thicker strings and you have lower registers, so you just need pull away the sound from the instrument. Look, there is a relation. If you, for example, have difficult passage like practice this in a way, right arm completely relax on the string. For example, you know why? Because you will discover it. If you are very stick to the string with the right hand, the left hand will start automatically be much more released, but you will not use the selectivity, because the selectivity makes the tense of the sound, not the clapping with the finger of your finger. This is what I think.
Especially in
Is it string? Is it when it's separate words rather than snare?
Yeah.
Okay. The coordination.
Your coordination. Look, coordination with, for example. Okay, very nice thing. Every day, half an hour a day in the front of television with cream soda on the back. A Kreutzer Etude number, am I right? This is 2. With the whole bow. Then after 10 minutes, in the lower part of the bow, but really, with, you know, with just... Then, in the upper part, through this easy exercise, we are practicing 3 things. This is great attitude. This is the best attitude. I think just for me. We are practicing 3 things. The coordination between left and right. We are practicing the position of the left hand, the fingers, the stability of the fingers on the string. You should also not forget, if you practice it, if you start with second finger, for example, the first finger should be on the string. And also, because the left hand is working like pattern, we are not playing. We are not playing like this, we are playing. We are making ta-ra, tam, 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 tam. Then it's much easier. If we make... This is like spider in a honey, you know. We are flying there.
Maybe if I just chip in a bit. I think the idea is about preparation. So what he's saying is that if you're going to have your second finger there, then you need to have your first finger down already. And then the second thing, or after playing the first note, the second note is string crossing. So you should think, yeah. So I think that the other problem there is the string crossing. So this is one problem. One thing that I do for coordination is actually play the study open strings. So if I try it now, so that's quite fast. So I'm going to carry on. So I've already dealt with the right hand. And then the second thing, to deal with the left hand, I play slurred. So I would do, because then I can know that, okay, there's finger going down. And then I connect the da 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 da. So then you find that actually you somehow you've separated the problem, because what you're talking about with coordination is that how do you bring them together? And so you can't bring them together at the same time. Well, you can if you're really clever. But in case of actually breaking it down, how do you work it out? Separate the two. Deal with the right hand and then deal with the left hand. And if you might find also that the other problems is either shifting or intonation. And that's usually you can achieve it in a slur, and then you do separate bows again to put the two together.
If I may something, now I just got it, I forgot to tell. There is such a golden rule on playing the violin. Some call them preparation technique, some call them just normal technique of playing violin. The first hand goes before the right hand, always, in any time. Also, if we realize if we have to play something, it's logic. We put fingers and then we produce the sound. So, What was that? I was practicing Natal Mishla and Paganiniana, for example, and there is the first variation is quite and then and go on. So what we have, I just realized, and my teacher was telling me also about it. First, put the finger in a very relaxed way. This is also some kind of practicing the coordination, because if we practice something slowly, the same in the faster tempo, but then we will not control it. It will have to come automatically. Our muscle memory will just do it, will control it instead of us. Yeah. So this is what I will suggest. Also, this as well, the Samson's ideas of the practicing, they are very good. This is for the coordination and everything. I agree, but just to also some kind of idea with this preparation technique. In the meantime, what is happening? If we, for example, practice the Fifth of Paganini, the Fifth of Paganini is such a bad caprice that after 30 seconds everybody wants just to throw violin away, because they but what we do in this, because they are cramped, what we do through this practicing, we are playing the violin using impulses. We cannot play all the time with the tension of left hand and tension of right hand. We are playing by using impulses. Look, for example. And if we want to make good phrasing to that, it's taka 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 down, for example. Practice that. We are creating the idea in our head. It should be taka 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 down. So we make and. Release. But until we will get to that tempo, we should make it in the front of television, anything. Impulse. Impulse, release. Yeah. We are practicing this through this fantastic, I think, Quatuor Etude number 2. And many other ways. But thank you very much. It was a big pleasure.
Yeah.
The possibility to exchange that.
On behalf of the Danish School of Music and the Classic SA, a special thank you to you gentlemen for sharing the secrets of the trade. I think it's very valuable to our students. I want to have one last question, and please sit down. We have more knowledge and scientific knowledge and science and physics available to us than ever before. Are we sacrificing innate musicianship to skill and technique in today's world? I'm asking this in a specific question. I had a conversation with a South African that did a master's degree first in the States and then in Europe. And I asked her what was the biggest difference in the studies. And she said, with respect, her feeling was in the States, the coda, the credo was quicker, more technical, as soon as possible. And in the European context, she thought there was more balanced emphasis between technique and innate musicianship. Do you think we are developing in the right direction, Samson?
Well, for me, the way I started off, especially in the beginning, in South Africa, I mean, if you were teaching sort of people from a township and you want to enjoy the instrument, you're not going to sort of shower them with Sevchik and Stradiak and all the sort of technical exercises. So you want to find a more sort of encouraging method to be aware of the tools that you need to do to play the instrument, but to enjoy it. because the first thing first with any instrument that you hold is to make music. And the technique is just knowing how to make the music. It's not the end, the end to the means. So the music should come first, and then you use the technique to make music. So I think that it's almost like which one comes first, because sometimes people playing very musical students but have not perhaps been schooled well enough to be able to execute what they want to do musically. So in some ways they're sort of paralyzed, and then it becomes the duty of the teacher to try and eliminate some of the technical difficulties for them to be able to play better. However, some of them can be discouraged by sort of the too much input of the technical side, that they end up not enjoying playing the instrument. Although they're very musical, but they're not enjoying playing the instrument because of the technical side of it. So I think you have to marry the two, because the first important thing is that you need to remember you're using the instrument to make music, not to learn technique.
Balance.
A last answer from you?
Well, I definitely agree with that what said Samson. I will maybe just ask a little bit of my private opinion. Today, generally in the world, we have such a very strange procedure. Like, let's go back with the ages. Let's go to 1930. Let's go to 1910, 1950, 60. We had a lot of great violin players, but not a lot of them was known. We had Chrysler, we had Oystra, we had Heifetz, we had Ellman, we have Milstein, we had was there Ijem Izai, who was of course a little bit earlier. A lot of them, and each of them were playing in a very special individual way. The people were not trying to play as fast as possible, like is today the tendency. The people were trying to express themselves, and they were much more involved in the sense what the composer wants to say through this piece and what I can add from my personality. How do I feel it? They were serving the music. The technique of these people were serving the music. Today is opposite. Today we have, sorry to call it badly, but this is the truth, a big rat race. But why this is happening? I think, in my very small opinion, for example, many students of students of the universities, they are finishing with their studies. And of course, the natural procedure is they want to apply for some job. The first idea most of them which they got is go to the orchestra, but they have to play audition. Well, the best renowned orchestras, they have really very high standard of auditions, and the young people just try with their auditions to play, and after, well, some of them are immediately successful. We're very happy for them. Some of them are unfortunately not, and they are trying to find out what is matter, what do they do wrong because they got the highest note at the university. And then they can realize that audition for the orchestra is big competition, but actually they cannot express themselves, but they need to play like a robots because they need to fit to the group. And this is one thing, and with that I completely don't agree, because I was playing in many orchestras and many chamber ensembles, and I don't agree with that if somebody is playing in the terms of that this is just one exposure of Mozart and one exposure of Bach. That's nonsense. If they are talented people and if they have great hearing of sound, they fit immediately. But if we get robot, then the orchestra play like robot. And the biggest thing is, according to the level of the musicians today, especially the young ones, and according to the way of how do they treat the music. You see, in today's there are many mentioning also factors which are on the side of the music, which are also working very destructive for the musicians. The thema taboo is, for example, I think André Rieu, they call it thema taboo. Tell me why this is a thema taboo. He's doing exactly this what was doing Johann Strauss in Old Wien, and they loved him. He's doing the same, and he's doing this in a great professional way. For example, the thema, also very important, is that today's that musicians which want to finish study and try immediately with some kind of they need a great managers. But the managers cost a lot of money. So this is actually all the possibility just for the people from the high families, from the well-situated families, or the families which has some connections to help them. And somewhere in this, I call it rat race, because it's just about money, about career. And this is was actually not before, was not as much, like 60 years ago, when even David Oistrakh was starting his career, and he was playing in small villages in Ukraine in -10 degrees just to have possibility to perform. And he was even loyal very much to the Soviet Union, which had not that good political influence that time on the artist. Yeah. So the one thing what is bothering me the most is that today we are thinking about really art and playing on the violin like about some kind of sports. We are not appreciating the differences between the people which have just other opinion, artistical opinion, because our ego and our artistic feeling are very independent. They are dependent on our ego of us. And if I could just say, change one thing in general in the group of where I am, I will do that we should stop talking about this nonsenses, what is the fast playing, who won that competition, who got that, who got something else, who has better violin, who has playing better vibrato, who is playing in general better. That's not the matter. Let's just sit and enjoy it, because this is beautiful. Even if somebody, for example, plays other way, let's respect it, let's have fun from playing. And this is the creating the real art. But if we go in competition, then our mental health is suffering a lot. And for us artists, this is just very unpredictable.